Good morning, Levi. It's Wednesday, and I think it's time we got back to the roots of this channel. I've spent a lot of time talking about basketball. I have a hat now, but it's time to get back to what I'm really good at, being pretentious. So I'm here in a study room in my hall, one of the worst audio places you could imagine, and I'm here to talk about OFF, a game that I played recently, and I wanted to talk about what it did for the video game genre and also how that relates to Undertale. And before I forget, I should say, if you are the type of person who plays video games or would see yourself playing either of these, do please do it before you watch this video, because I'm gonna talk about spoilers. But if you're not the type of person who plays video games, or if you, like everyone else in the world, has already been spoiled about Undertale, then you're free to go.
OFF is a 2008 RPG Maker game made by Unproductive Funtime, a Belgian group of two guys who allegedly made the game in secondary school. This game saw wide fandom popularity after being translated into English in 2011 and became a cult classic, going on to inspire Toby Fox when creating Undertale. For those uninitiated, like I was 2 weeks ago, that revelation that OFF inspired one of the most popular RPGs of all time is quite shocking. Obviously, while it isn't responsible for everything, after playing OFF myself, it is clear that the genre-shattering decisions Undertale made were directly inspired by the game about a batter in his bat. So what is OFF? I've talked about its production and history, but it really is a game that eludes proper categorization. It's not quite a horror game, but the atmosphere and designs everywhere you go make the player constantly uneasy. Honestly, I could make a full video just talking about how bizarre it is. I can tell you it's an RPG Maker game, so it utilizes heavy dialogue, features an active time battle system, and involves a smattering of puzzle solving in various ways. You play as a character named the Batter and are told by the game that your goal is to purify the world, and to do this you visit areas called zones and defeat bosses that control them, leaving the worlds bleak and uninhabited except for spooky weird guys named secretaries. The effects of this purification, as well as other moments throughout the game, starts the player wondering if what they're doing is actually a good thing. This feeling culminates in the final battle where the judge, the character who has been helping us since the beginning, now calls on the player to stop the batter from turning the game off. The player is then given a choice on who to side with, and it leads to two different endings that both feel horribly bleak despite what you pick.
From all this, you can probably gather what type of game OFF is and how it relates to Undertale, but specifically, I wanted to talk about two different things that OFF does that predates Undertale's revolutionary mechanics. First, how it handles the twist ending that we see paralleled in Undertale structure, and then secondly, how it handles the relationship between the player character in the game and the player in real life.
So to start, let's look at how OFF handles its twist ending. OFF obviously isn't the first time that you were the bad guy all along twist has been pulled in media in general or just in video games, but in OFF we see something a little bit more than that. The player is given the option to make amends for what they did. The judge gives them a choice to decide what they did was wrong and abandon the character they've controlled all game in favor of the one who opposes them. Now, a common criticism of OFF, which is justifiable, is that there was no choice before that point to stop doing what the protagonist wants. The linear nature of the game was not made for player agency. It was meant to tell a story of genre expectations, the main character always being right and being an easy justification for the player to believe whatever they're told, but in a way that criticism is something you can't control. You as the player couldn't decide to stop doing what the batter wanted unless you turned the game off, and that's no fun. In that way, OFF felt weak in its twist convictions. Undertale, however, expands on what OFF wanted to do. Many of those same criticisms of OFF not giving the player enough agency come in light of what Undertale did to the genre. Taking the choice that OFF gives the player at the end of the game and expanding it, Undertale made the entire game a choice. Fight, spare, we all know the gimmick of Undertale at this point, but all of these choices give you as the player a chance to change how you interact with the world outside of two static choices when it's already too late to change anything. This evolution in player choice, this ability to make choices you want to make, can be seen first in OFF and then expanded in Undertale. It's what the two games are known for and subvert the linearity of not only RPGs, but video games in general. It might come as a surprise to you, as it did to me, that Mortis Ghost, one of the two creators of OFF, never played Earthbound before the creation of the game. Both games feature protagonists who fight enemies in a surrealist world while wielding a bat, so the fact that OFF drew no inspiration was quite a coincidence. Just as shocking, however, is how OFF handles the dichotomy of player versus the player-controlled character. Just like in Earthbound, OFF asks directly for the player's name, not the name that your character takes. The judge even addresses you directly, seemingly showing that everyone in this game knows they're in a game and urges you to act separate of the player character, judging you for siding with him out of allegiance to video game tropes. If you've played any of Undertale's endings, you know that many characters see everything the same way. Sans and Flowey both recognize that you are more powerful than them simply because you can reload the game after you die, and Flowey even goes as far in the best ending as to beg you to stop playing. Off's introduction to separating the player from the character leads to more nuanced commentary on the genre, allowing for criticism of the audience directly, and Undertale picks up that idea and expands on it in the best ways.
Off sets up a world where the characters are self-aware, which Undertale then picks up and uses, although a bit more sparingly. Like the idea of player choice we discussed earlier, it feels like a lot of the things that Off introduced were not elaborated on that much. They weren't meant to be the central part of the game, but accidentally stumbled into laying the groundwork for the genre-defining title of Undertale. And while the two games are still very different and have very different things to offer, it's very interesting to look at how they contributed to the change in the genre, especially over the past decade as games have become more and more about player choice. Levi, I hope you enjoyed looking at one of the weirder games that I've played recently. I think it was very interesting to look into the history of Off and how that helped Undertale and how they worked together to change the genre of RPG games. It's been a long while since I've made a video like this because I don't have access to the things that I have at home and the audio recording space is horrible, but I thought I would do this. I have an English midterm that was just analyze something, and so this is going to be the project, and I think it was a lot of fun to make. So hopefully it works out, hopefully it turns out, hopefully you enjoyed, and Levi, I will see you on Friday. There. I wish they would stop screaming.